Hey everyone, welcome to the Morning Grind presented by rotogrinders.com. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's June 21st. It's Tuesday. We have a 15-game slate, so nice little 90-game slate on Monday night. Back to a full slate here on Tuesday. It feels like a Monday though, but you know it is what it is. So I got a special guest today, the creator of the Bat, Derek Carty. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good. I'm excited to be on. This is my first show.
I know we popped the cherry a couple weeks ago, doing a show together on Grinders Live, and now I get to have you here on the podcast, and we get to talk some more baseball. We crushed it on that slate, so hopefully we can do it again here today.
Definitely did.
So, if you guys haven't checked out our sponsor, FantasyDraft.com, make sure you guys go over to FantasyDraft.com. Check them out. Use promo code Grinders. That way, you guys get incentives here at Roto Grinders for Fantasy Draft for free for a year. And you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. Deposit bonuses are hard to come by nowadays, so take advantage of that. We're going to talk some baseball here. It's 15 games, man. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we do. You got to love the big slates, though, especially when, like tonight, there's a lot of options.
Yeah, it's not like one of those 15-game slates where you're going to have to, decide, all right, what number 4 or 5 starter do I want? We have some really solid arms here.
Yeah. Solid arms and lots on the hitting side too, so it should be a fun slate.
Yeah, Monday was a fun slate, so we get another fun slate here, and let's jump into it, my friend. Let's start here with Colorado at New York. We have Ivan Nova, and Chad Bettis. I don't pronounce Nova's name right because he's just so bad. I don't want anything to do with him.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I want nothing to do with Nova either. I think there's going to be hitting options on both sides of this game. Honestly, it's Nova's not good. Bettis is below average in a National League context. You throw him into the American League and all the lefties in the Yankees lineup, I think Yankees project really well, and I think Rockies in the right spots where they have good prices, I think they're good too.
Yeah, and this is a game at Yankee Stadium, so you get a pitcher like Nova and Bettis that both of these guys struggle, and we get a matchup here at Yankee Stadium, and it's just like, all right, we can definitely look at hitters here. So I definitely agree with you. We have no interest in the pitchers here. So let's talk bats. Let's talk Colorado. They're on the road here. Who do you like here for the Rockies?
I mean, you're going to want to prioritize the lefties wherever possible. I mean, Cargo is going to be a great option. On FanDuel, have you noticed Trevor Story's price lately? He's, I think, 2,800 again today. That is just too cheap for Story. I get it, a couple weeks ago when he was struggling, but he's hitting again, and he's a really good hitter. How is he so cheap still?
I don't know. I keep playing him every day. I will play Trevor Story under 3K every day. I don't care who's pitching.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous price, and today he's a must-play in my mind too.
Yeah, just, shortstop, limited position for upside, and you get a guy like Story who continues to just hit home runs. Is he going to slow down? Probably, but everybody keeps thinking that, and I think this guy's going to hit over 30 home runs this year.
Yeah, not only are the pitchers easy to pick on here, but there's a lot of good weather in this game too. It's really hot. It's going to be in the mid-80s, and it looks like there's about, 10 to 15 mile-an-hour winds blowing out to dead center. So I really like bats here. Yeah,
so looking at the Rockies, tournament-wise, I think you could go a little crazy and look at guys like Arenado. Righty-righty matchup. Not a lot of people are going to be on him, but Cargo has to be the best bat here.
Absolutely. Cargo is going to be, if you can pick one guy, ignoring price, Cargo is the guy you want.
Yeah, and Blackmon, he's hitting the ball well. So a lot of options here, a lot of good options. Now looking at the Yankees, we're just going to load up on the lefties here, right?
Yes, we are definitely going to do that. They don't have a lot of good righties to begin with, so lefties are definitely the way to go.
If you want to go crazy here, do you take a shot on A-Rod? I just don't like his price tag across the industry. It's up.
Yeah, he's too expensive, really. If you're stacking Yankees, I mean, I think he has to be a part of it in a GPP stack just because he is probably going to hit, fourth or whatever. But if you're just kind of picking and choosing, then the lefties like, Ellsbury, Gardner, McCann, they're more the way I would go.
So what's your thoughts here on Didi? A guy that's hitting the ball well. He has hits in 7 of his last 10 games. He's batting down in the order. I know you don't like him for cash games, obviously, but he's a guy that I've been playing in tournaments, and it's really been paying off.
Yeah, in tournaments, I can definitely see it today just because of the matchup. But he's a guy that, I don't know, I've never quite seen it with him. I don't I don't know. I just don't see much out of his bat. Like he's a decent hitter, slightly below average, and I think that's about the nicest thing you can say about the guy. So definitely not a cash game guy down in the order. In GPPs, okay. I'm not going to tell you not to because it is such a good matchup, but he doesn't usually do it for me.
Yeah, I'm just looking to be different here with a Yankee stack, especially unlike fantasy draft. You can roll out 6 guys. You could definitely take all the Yankees hitters you like. On DraftKings with 5, you could definitely take all the hitters you want there. But on FanDuel, to be a little different, if Didi's in the bottom of the order, maybe a 8 spot, and then you wrap it around with the 3 outfielders, 1, 2, 3, just to be a little different in your stack. A lot of people will do the outfielders plus McCann, which is obviously a good play here against Bettis. We don't like any of these pitchers. Load up in the bats, wait to see the lineups. San Diego at Baltimore, Tyler Wilson against Perdomo. Man, Perdomo, this guy against Baltimore, at Baltimore, you have to like Baltimore's bats, but do you have any interest in Tyler Wilson?
No, I have zero interest in either of these pitchers. This is another game where there are just loads of hitting options on both sides. Perdomo is like the Padres, they picked him in the Rule 5 draft, and he's a guy who belongs in the minors right now, but they can't send him to the minors if they want to keep him. They like his long-term potential, so they're just like, okay, we're not going anywhere. We're just going to eat his bad outings, and today is going to be another one.
Yeah, he's not a guy that, like you said, he's not ready, but what are they going to do? So San Diego bats here at Baltimore. Will Myers, always, he's always an under-owned option, and this guy is mashing the baseball this season.
Yeah, Myers is really turning it around. I was optimistic about him coming into the year, but I thought there might have been some lingering effects with his wrist injury. Not the case. Myers is just crushing, and I think it's largely legitimate. Like, this is a guy who was once one of the top prospects in all of baseball, not even that long ago, a couple of years ago. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Myers.
Being a guy that goes to a lot of Rays games, being in that area where I can go to Rays games, he was super highly touted when he was with the Rays and just never got it done. And now here he is here, 5 years later, and he looks like he's healthy. He's swinging a good bat. He's just squaring everything up, and that's what you want, especially in tournaments. A guy that has 16 home runs, first base on FanDuel, I still think you got to like him here in tournaments. Any other things that you like here on the Padres?
Yeah, I like Ryan Schimpf. He's I like him more for DraftKings and fantasy draft where you can go a little bit deeper into the pool. Especially today, the Padres are going to have a DH, so there's a pretty decent chance that he's going to be in the lineup. $2,100 on DraftKings. This is a guy who just destroyed the minors, destroyed minor league pitching. So against a really weak righty in a park that is really good for lefty hitters, especially lefty power, he's a guy who I think could be a really sneaky option to save some money today.
Love that call. He's only 4K on fantasy draft, so if he's in the starting lineup in a decent lineup spot, definitely that's punt playable. And you're saying, a guy that just mashed the minors, if he's in that lineup at 4K on draft, he's a guy that I would definitely consider for cash games. Any thoughts here on Kemp and Melvin Upton?
I think they're going to be options. It's going to be a good matchup for the Padres. They're going to be picking up the DH, which is going to help them turn the lineup over. They're getting a nice park boost. It's a better park for lefties than it is for righties, but if they're well priced, they're guys who you can consider.
Now, looking at Melvin Upton specifically here, when he gets on base, he's always wanting to run. He's a guy that likes to steal bases, and this year he's actually been able to get on base, which has been a problem for his ever since he's been in the league.
Yeah.
Do you add upside to a guy like that?
I think you have to, especially today. Tyler Wilson is well below average in terms of being able to prevent steals, so that does help a guy like Upton, and it creates more upside. So as a GPP guy, I can definitely get behind Upton.
Yeah, Weeders behind the plate. That's always fun too. Now looking at Baltimore, a lot to love here. This is just a game where they're at home. It's a great hitter's ballpark. Give me, some guys that you like here for Baltimore.
Name a Baltimore bat. I probably like them.
That's good. Trumbo is always a guy that I talk about on the podcast. He always goes under-owned just in tournaments because nobody wants to play Mark Trumbo. They have that like thought in their mind, like, but this isn't the same Mark Trumbo we've seen over the last few years. This guy is hitting the ball. He's going to have over 100 RBIs this year, and he might hit over 40 home runs.
Yeah, I mean, I was always a big Trumbo fan. I thought people kind of, I don't know, he didn't get a fair deal, I didn't think, from a lot of people. So I like Trumbo. The Orioles are my top projected offense of the day. So really, pick whichever Orioles you want. It's going to be interesting to see what their lineup's like, especially now that Machado's out. They're facing a righty today, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I mean, really, whoever is at the top of this order is going to be cash game viable.
All right, so I'm going to get you out of your cash game mindset here. Pedro Alvarez, do you believe in this? Do you think this is a guy you can continue to look at for upside?
Absolutely. Pedro Alvarez has always had big power, and he's always been contained by a really good pitcher's park, basically, in PNC. So you put him in Baltimore, which is the exact opposite. It's a great power park for lefties, and it's no surprise that his power's coming out and that he's, kind of doing some stuff. So I like Alvarez. I think there's always upside with him in Camden Yards.
San Francisco at Pittsburgh, Johnny Cueto. Wilfredo Boskin, this guy. All right, so let's start with Cueto. Do you have any interest in Cueto here?
Marginal. I mean, he's not a bad play by any means, but it is a park downgrade for him. The Pirates aren't what you would call a weak offense. They're not what you would call an offense that strikes out a lot. So I don't know. Cueto is solid today. I think there's better options. He's a GPP guy to be different. That's kind of how I view him today.
Yeah, we want to target Cueto in better matchups, right? Like the San Diegos of the world, or like Milwaukee last time out. We want to target him against these below average offenses. Like, I don't think that he'll go out and necessarily pitch bad in this game, but I don't think he has that, 55 to 60 point upside in this game as well.
I don't think he has that either.
And looking at his price tag, you're really going to need that really phenomenal game, especially on a one-pitcher site. I do like his chances to get a win in this game. That's because I have no faith in Wilfredo Boskin.
You are smart to not have faith in Wilfredo Boskin. Wilfredo Boskin is not a very good pitcher, so I agree with you. Cueto has a very good chance of the win here. The strikeout upside diminishes his value and his upside, though.
Yeah, Pirates just don't strike out a lot, like you mentioned. So let's look at San Francisco bats here, visiting team. So we know we're guaranteed 9 innings of offense here for the Giants. Is there anything that really stands out to you here?
The thing that stands out to me is that, of course, Boskin is bad, but the Giants profile well in this kind of matchup, because even though it's a pitcher's park, it's more of a pitcher's park for righties than it is for lefties. And the Giants are super left-handed, so their lefties are getting the better side of the park. They're getting the platoon advantage against Boskin. They're getting a below-average bullpen behind him. So I think Giants lefties today are actually really good plays.
Well, that's good. Every day I give out 3 guys I like on Fantasy Draft under 8K for cash games, and the first one comes from this game. It's Denard Span, 7,200, leadoff spot. Love his chances to get 5 at-bats in this game. Just like this spot for Span a lot.
I completely agree. He's always, a solid contributor at the top of the lineup, getting on base, and this is a good spot, I think.
Now, we mentioned Trevor Story on FanDuel, really solid shortstop. If you want to go different in a tournament, I love Brandon Crawford's upside. This guy, even last year, we started to see it, but this year we've really seen him come full circle. He's hitting extra base hits. I like Crawford. What's your thoughts?
I like Crawford too. Any Giants lefty today, especially a guy like Crawford who's kind of an overlooked shortstop. Like he's a good hitting shortstop, and I feel like people don't really talk about him that much. Maybe it's because he gets buried in the Giants order. He doesn't usually hit very high up, but I'm a Crawford fan.
Yeah, and he should get a better lineup spot, wouldn't you think, with Duffy going to the DL?
You would hope. I mean, he kind of deserves it.
Yeah, he definitely does. Is there anything now? We're kind of on the edge about Cueto. We don't really want to pick on him, do we? Like, is there any Pittsburgh bat that really stands out to you here?
No, no. You don't want to pick on Cueto. I don't really see any Pittsburgh bats that I would be enthused to play. I mean, maybe if it's a site with dynamic pricing, like we've seen. Yesterday, the Pittsburgh were against Madison Bumgarner, and they were really cheap on DraftKings and Fantasy Draft. So if that's the case today, I haven't seen the pricing yet, then maybe you could be talked into it, like if you need to save money. But really, you don't want to pick on Cueto.
I'm going to throw one name at you here before we move on to the next game. Gregory Polanco is 2,700 on FanDuel. Would that interest you?
It's a cheap price. I don't know if it's cheap enough. In a GPP, maybe, but in cash games, I would need him to be cheaper on FanDuel.
I think that's fair. I think that in a tournament, him or McCutchen. McCutchen's 28, and there's just going to be a time where McCutchen, I don't think he's healthy right now, but he's going to get healthy, and he's going to start hitting the baseball again. He's just too cheap, but I just don't know if now's the time we want to jump on him. I really think he's playing hurt.
Yeah, guys that you think are playing hurt and who've just been bad for an extended period of time, they're too hard to trust. Definitely in cash games, even in GPPs, it can just be taken a zero. I mean, McCutchen put up a zero last night, I think. And, Giancarlo Stanton, who's basically in the exact same boat, was just putting up zeros forever. Maybe, I don't know, it seems like maybe he's coming out of it now. But guys like that, I just want no part of.
Arizona at Toronto. Arizona going from Chase Field to Rogers Center, not losing too much here. This is a good ball game. Marco Estrada, Patrick Corbin. Estrada's a guy that, for the most part, limits the damage, doesn't get hit really hard. Is there any interest in him here against Arizona?
There actually is. He's too expensive, but I mean, it could be a decent matchup. It's always interesting to see with Arizona. You can't really know ahead of time because they don't really roll out a consistent lineup. It's really hard to know what they're going to do from day to day. But, not one of their best lefty, David Peralta's on the DL again, so he's not going to be in the lineup today. They're going to be picking up a DH, which is going to complicate it even further, trying to figure out who they're going to play. But I mean, they're a very right-handed heavy team. They are taking a bit of a park downgrade. I think Estrada is an interesting play today, potentially a contrarian one, because I don't know how many people are going to be on him.
Yeah, I love that call. Two pitcher sites. If you can get him cheaper on a site, I would like him more in that aspect. I don't love him on FanDuel. I don't love him on Draft. I haven't seen his price on DraftKings, but
it's over 10, which is high. It's like what do we got? 11.3, which is just, it's too high for Estrada. If he was like 8 or 9, like that's the price you want him at. But I don't know.
Yeah, that price is too high. Patrick Corbin, what's your thoughts here on Corbin? A guy that we've seen some strikeout upside, but he's given up a hit over a hit per inning this season.
Yeah, the hit per inning thing is, I don't know, not something I'm overly concerned about, but his strikeout rate is down this year, which more balls in play means more hits. I kind of view him as an average pitcher, a little above average maybe. It's not a good matchup for him. You put him into the Rogers Center against all the Blue Jays righties. Like I don't know. I like Blue Jays bats against Corbin today. I don't think he's good enough to withstand that offense.
Yeah, Patrick Corbin has a 39% hard contact rate this season. I like the Blue Jays bats as well. Josh Donaldson and Encarnacion, just great plays here. Like, even I guess, oh God, it pains me to say this. I guess we could even look at Troy Tulowitzki. We
could. I mean, he's off the DL now, hopefully healthy. If he is healthy, I mean, he's a guy who's a great hitter when he's healthy. So he's definitely not a guy you should sleep on.
I hope the DL stint really helps him turn around his season. I don't like seeing hitters struggle, and he's definitely struggling. It'd be interesting to see what kind of lineup we see here. If Kevin Pillar gets a decent lineup spot, I think he's in play as well.
Yeah, it is really going to be interesting to see what kind of lineup they roll out against a lefty with, Batista on the DL, with Tulowitzki back. So it could be, I don't know, there could be some interesting plays here.
Wait until we see the lineup. You definitely want to target the righties. I wouldn't go crazy with the lefties against Corbin.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, it just no upside with the lefties. He doesn't give up a lot of home runs to lefties. Decent ground ball rate. Like, you don't want to target the lefties here. Target the righties. Is there anything that you want to target here for Arizona?
Not really. I mean, I can see it. Arizona will sometimes bat like a random guy in like the 2-hole or something, and the guy winds up being really cheap. But that's really the only thing I would be looking at with them.
I'm going to continue to say it. I said it on Friday, and I think I even said it on Thursday. When we get Peter O'Brien in good matchups, this guy has massive power. Continue to watch this guy. I didn't call the 2 home runs the other day, but I said that he was an excellent play. He's a guy with massive power.
Yeah, I called O'Brien for one of my dongs on Grinders Live that day. Like you said, massive power. It's a good park for power. I don't know what his price is. His price has fluctuated like so wildly on some sites. Like on DraftKings, one day it was 3,000, the next day it was close to 5,000. So like I don't know what he is tomorrow, but if he's priced well enough, there is definitely going to be power upside. 2,600 on DraftKings tomorrow. That's an appealing price.
Yeah, he's 5,100 on Fantasy Draft, and I think he's 2,500 on FanDuel. So factoring in price in a tournament, you're not going to get a lot of power at that type of price tag on Fantasy Draft. So I like that play in tournaments.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Kansas City at New York taking on the Mets. Ian Kennedy, Noah Syndergaard. I'm seriously worried about the Mets. This offense is struggling. They're dealing with so many injuries. Is this a spot that if we roll out Syndergaard, you think that he could get enough run support?
I do. I'm not a Kennedy believer at all. I talked about it on Grinders Live many times throughout the first couple months of the year, how I thought Kennedy was about to start crashing hard. And in June, he's 7.85 ERA in 3 June outings, and that doesn't come as a surprise to me. He's not a very good pitcher. I mean, it's like you said, the Mets have been struggling. He's getting a park upgrade today. I don't think the Mets are going to crush him by any means, but I do think Syndergaard will be a good bet for a win.
So I think the thing that we need to say that's like the most important part of this game is Travis d'Arnaud is supposed to be back in this game, and that's such a big upgrade for the Mets pitchers.
d'Arnaud is definitely their best defensive catcher. Kevin Plawecki is about on his level, but it is a nice upgrade over Rene Rivera, who's been catching, at least half the games, maybe more than that. So getting d'Arnaud behind the plate will definitely be a good thing for Syndergaard.
Rivera tilts me so hard. Oh man, that guy tilts me so much. He calls so many bad pitches. Not going to go into it because it'll make me lose my mind. You mentioned Kennedy. I agree with you. This is a guy throughout his career has always had a really high hard contact rate. And when you're getting hit hard, bad things happen. His home run per 9 is way up. If we had to look at some of these bats here, what's your thoughts here on Cespedes?
I mean, anytime you're considering Mets bats, Cespedes is going to be one of the top options because he's their best hitter. So I can see Cespedes. I like Neil Walker today. I think he's, giving a cursory glance, he looked like he was well priced. Hits better from the left side. I think there's some Mets where they're well priced. I think they can do some damage on Kennedy.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Kelly Johnson gets the start. If he gets the start, min salary pretty much everywhere. I like Kelly Johnson as a punt play.
I think Kelly Johnson is frequently a good punt play, so I can definitely get behind that today.
Any bats that you want to target here against Syndergaard?
No, not really. The only bats I normally will even consider against a guy like Syndergaard are bats who are cheap and bats who have speed, because Syndergaard does struggle preventing steals. I mean, you could maybe make the case for like an Alcides Escobar, but that would really probably be it for me.
Yeah, I'm like president of the Whit Merrifield Player Club. I play this guy so much. At 6,000 on Fantasy Draft, I don't think he's an awful play because I like the opportunities if he gets on base to steal against Syndergaard. But I'm not going to go out of my way to pick on Noah Syndergaard here.
No, I'm certainly not. Syndergaard may well be my favorite pitcher today, so batters against him are probably not where I'm looking.
Last bat that I want to talk about here before we move on, Conforto. He's a guy that's really slumping. He only has 4 hits in his last 10 games. Is this a guy you might look at just because he's just so cheap and he has the upside here against Kennedy?
Only as a GPP guy, maybe only as like part of a Mets stack. Guys with wrist injuries, that kind of thing tends to linger, tends to sap power, which Conforto's a power guy. So for me, I see him as a very high risk proposition.
High Risk is my middle name. Don't hate it. Seattle at Detroit, Justin Verlander, James Paxton. I've been really impressed with Paxton. I don't know if you've watched him pitch at all this year. What's your thoughts here on Paxton?
I think Paxton is an interesting guy in a vacuum. He throws hard. He has that knuckle curve. He's certainly put up good numbers to this point. I don't think today is a day to play Paxton. I actually really like Detroit bats today. I think they're going to do some damage against him. Paxton is a guy, though, that I do like the stuff. I do like the upside.
No, I don't like him today as well. I just speaking in general, I just wanted to get your thoughts on, just Paxton in general. So, any love for Verlander here?
No, I don't dislike Verlander here, but this isn't the right spot for him in my mind. You like pitchers against Seattle when they're left-handed. You like them in pitchers' parks. You don't like them for a right-hander, even a right-hander with reverse splits in a pretty good hitter's park, especially on a day where it looked. What was it? Sorry, I was looking at the weather. It's not great weather. 16-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left. That's what I was looking at. So the lefties, the good lefties that Seattle has, I don't know. I think they're going to do some damage on Verlander.
Yeah. How many times have we seen Kyle Seager hit a home run to the opposite field? It's definitely possible. So I don't like the pitchers here. I could make an argument for Verlander on a 2-pitcher site in a tournament. I think you could make an argument for that, but I'm not going to go out of my way here, especially if that wind stays that way. If we see 16-mile-an-hour winds out to left field, you're going to have to love the Detroit bats, though.
Yeah, I got my fields mixed up when I was talking about that before, but that's one of the reasons why I like the Detroit bats, because they're going to have the platoon advantage against Paxton. They're going to have that wind blowing out, and Detroit is basically all right-handed bats.
Yeah, love the Tigers here in this game. I think that they're awesome. My second fantasy draft play that I'm going to target here under 8K is Justin Upton. I really think we're going to see him start to turn his season around. He's only 6,300 on draft. Excellent price tag. Good matchup here against the lefty.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're starting to see him turn that season around. He's a guy who is a good hitter. He has a history of being a really good hitter. Now he's starting to actually hit good. So I think Upton's a great play. He's still too cheap. I wish they would move him back up higher in the order, though, to make him a little bit more viable in cash games.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. One guy that I love putting with here against the left-handed pitcher, I talk about him all the time, is James McCann. The McCannon, I love this guy's arm too. Just love him against left-handed pitching. He brings upside to the catcher position where we really don't have a lot that we love at catcher every night. I just like McCann here at 2,200 on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's a good price. I do think on a night like this where there are just a lot of good teams to pick from, I do think there will probably be some better catcher options. Like a guy like Brian McCann isn't very cheap, 3,300 on FanDuel. I would imagine he's the way I'm going to go. But in a GPP, especially if you're, running a Detroit stack, trying to make kind of a different looking Detroit stack, McCann definitely has that upside.
Do we even need to talk about Miguel Cabrera here? Like he's obviously one of the top plays on the day.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the top plays.
Yeah, I just don't see this guy ever slowing down. He reminds me, him and David Ortiz, like they could hit until they're 50.
David Ortiz, I'm going to be sad when he retires. He's just so good still.
As a Red Sox fan, I'm definitely going to be sad when he retires as well. Ian Kinsler, guys like Nick Castellanos, this is a really good spot, especially if that wind. Pay attention to the wind here. If the wind stays blowing out to left field at 16 to 20 miles an hour, it's going to be a good spot for the Tigers hitters. Anything that really stands out to you here for Seattle?
Honestly, no. I mean, like we said, we're not playing Verlander, but we're certainly not really picking on him either, especially because, their best bats are left-handed. Verlander has that reverse split, so it kind of cuts into their value there. I'm not really into Seattle bats.
One name that I will say on Fantasy Draft, this is a Fantasy Draft specific play, Nelson Cruz is $6,800 on draft today. That's ridiculous. He would be one guy. Nelson Cruz hits lefties and righties. This guy has power. He'd be the one guy that I would look at in this matchup against Verlander.
I didn't realize he was that cheap.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can kind of see it. 3,400 on DraftKings, also very cheap. So yeah, you could definitely roll him out there in a tournament.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to have a lot of him on DraftKings at that price tag. That's just, 3,400 for a guy that has 2 home run upside is just ridiculous.
Especially because he is batting from the right side, so that wind is going to help him, probably the most out of any of Seattle's bats.
Atlanta at Miami, Jose Fernandez, Bud Norris. I have Fernandez as number 1 today, and it's really not that close.
Explain this to me, because I'm of the opinion that righties against Atlanta are like a super overrated play.
Yeah, the strikeouts are definitely not crazy against Atlanta, but the team that's lowest in hard contact, they're the second lowest team or third lowest team now in WRC plus. They're still striking out at 19%. They have 0 power. Like, their power is Freddie Freeman. That's only power. You get a Miami ballpark, and you have Bud Norris on the other side of the hill. Like, Fernandez should cruise 7 innings here and pick up the win without an issue.
Like, I agree. I like Fernandez today. Definitely a top option. Maybe top. I think I like Syndergaard more, but he would be number 2, I would imagine, for me. But I don't know. Like the Miami Park, it's actually pretty neutral. It's like a pretty sizable upgrade for Atlanta. I mean, it's not like a good hitter's park, but it's not a good pitcher's park either. And I get there's not a lot of power in the Atlanta lineup, but it's so left-handed, and it's just there's not a ton of strikeouts there. Fernandez is going to get them because he's Fernandez. I think he's a great play today, but I don't know if he's like so far and away the best play, especially when he's more expensive than say a guy like Syndergaard, like he is on DraftKings. I don't know if Fernandez is my guy today.
One pitcher sites, if you had to pick Fernandez against Atlanta with Bud Norris or Noah Syndergaard against Kansas City with Kennedy, who would you have to win?
Right now, it's Syndergaard.
I like it, man. I like this. I like when we can have co-host on and we don't always agree. It's great. No bats here for Atlanta, right?
No, certainly not.
Yeah, even with Freddie Freeman, he's extremely hot. This guy is El Fuego at the plate right now. I'm not even going to take a shot on Freeman here. He's really cheap. And if you wanted a one-off tournament play with a gun to my head, he would be the guy, but I'm not going to play Freeman here.
Yeah. I looked up his price because I'm like, well, maybe he's super cheap because it's Fernandez. He's 3,700. Like there's a difference between Nelson Cruz for around that price against Verlander and someone against Jose Fernandez. So for me, no Freeman.
Stanton is 8 for his last 16. He had a home run last night on Monday night. Is it time to play Stanton? He's still so cheap.
He's still so cheap. So yes, now I would be more willing to play Stanton, but I'm still a little.
I think everybody should be gun shy. Like the 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts is still opportunity. But we're starting to see some positive stuff out of Stan. His $3,100 price tag on FanDuel, he's going to be extremely popular in cash games.
Yeah, I would imagine he will be. 36 on DraftKings is still a pretty good price. So, yeah, I could be tempted by Stanton today for sure.
Yeah, even on Fantasy Draft at 7,200, I thought about putting him in as one of my fantasy draft plays. I don't even have to. At that price, you just know to play him. I don't have to tell you. Any thoughts here on Yelich and Dietrich?
I mean, they've been hitting Dietrich leadoff a lot lately, which is nice. He's a guy that I like. He has a nice big platoon split. I think he's a legitimately pretty good hitter. So if he's hitting leadoff, then yeah, I could see him being an option. I know Yelich sat out yesterday. I missed why. Is he okay?
I don't know. I don't think they actually said why he sat out. I was just kind of assuming it was rest.
I think probably a pretty good guess. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Because he came in and stole a base. Like if it was anything, too bad, I would expect. I think they're just trying to get Ichiro at bats.
God, that is the state of the franchise, isn't it? The franchise is, I don't know, in trouble when that is the priority.
Yeah, fantasy-wise, Ichiro, not a guy we're going to target, but he is hitting 349 this season. He's been hitting the ball well. everybody wants to see him to get to 3,000, right?
I would like to see him get to 3,000. I don't know what he's even priced at these days. I haven't played him in a while, but wow, 3,700 on DraftKings. That is way too high for Ichiro. But I mean, Norris does struggle with steals, so Ichiro would have a shot at one. Yelich would have a shot at one. Miami bats are going to be interesting plays here. I'm guessing though that Bud Norris's name is going to make them more popular than I would want them to be.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. Bud Norris, he stinks so bad against left-handed bats. He's awful against lefties. What about looking at Justin Bour in a tournament and just using him as a one-off, with everybody using him in a Marlins stack, with them going to be popular here against Bud Norris? I think Bour as a one-off in a tournament with some of these other good offenses is a really interesting tournament strategy.
I can definitely get behind that. I mean, Bour has power. There's definitely a chance he could take Norris deep.
Yeah, and so everybody's going to be playing Ozuna, Yelich, Stanton. Play that one-off in Bour, and you get such a heads up on some of these other guys. Chicago White Sox, Boston Red Sox, Chris Sale, Clay Buchholz. I'm off the Sale train. I haven't played him in a while. I just don't like the way that he's pitching this season, so I want to get your thoughts on him here.
My thoughts on him are that he's an idiot. Pitching
Thank you.
is the worst strategy ever. It's terrible. It's bad. It makes you a worse pitcher. He basically said he wanted to go deeper in the game, so he wants to pitch to contact more to try and get quicker outs, and that's not how it works. Pitching to contact runs your pitch count up. Sale is frustrating, especially today. Terrible matchup. Obviously, you're not playing him in Fenway against the Red Sox. I don't know. Kind of disgusted with Sale.
Yeah, this is a guy that had a 14.6 swinging strike rate last season. It's down 5%. His contact rate is up almost 10%. That instantly just, dude, it drives me so insane. As a guy that pitched for such a long time, in my head, you go up there and you want to get batters out, and if you go 7 innings instead of 8, let your bullpen do their job. Oh, so frustrating. On the other side of things, Clay Buchholz stinks as well, coming out of the bullpen to start in this game because the Red Sox pitching rotation is god-awful this season. No interest in Buchholz here.
No, zero interest in Buchholz. I think that pretty much goes without saying.
Yeah, I think I summed it up for both of us there. He stinks. A lot of bats in this game. It's a Fenway game. Nice ballpark to target hitters in. So I'll let you start it here with the White Sox guys you want to target.
Honestly, I think Buchholz is bad. He did look decent out of the bullpen. I'm not necessarily all about playing White Sox against him today. I think there's better spots today. I would much rather take guys from the Baltimore game, from Toronto, from the Yankees game. We haven't gotten to it yet, but I think Texas is going to have a lot of good bats today. So I like the White Sox bats, but I just think there's a lot of better options today.
Yeah, and I can kind of see that. I definitely think that's definitely a valid point. So what you're saying here is if you are playing tournaments and you're going at the White Sox, you're going to stack them. You're not going to just roll out one guy. You're going to want to throw out a stack and, play your other offenses and other lineups.
That's the way I would approach it.
Now, looking at the Red Sox, Chris Sale is still Chris Sale. Is there anybody that you want to target here against Sale?
No, he's still Chris Sale. It's not like he's a bad pitcher. He's deliberately making himself a worse pitcher, but he's still a really, really good one. So, I'm not playing any Red Sox.
Yeah, unless you have some pricing where it's really cheap and you can get Xander or Chris Young really cheap. Chris Young would be the one tournament guy that I would look at here.
Yeah, guys like Chris Young, I don't know. They don't do it for me. He hits low in the order usually. He has the potential to get pinch hit for once he comes out of the game. In a tournament, that's less of an option or less of a concern. So I can kind of see it there, but otherwise, he's not usually a guy that I'm on.
Yeah, I'm looking for that Chris Sale deep ball game, man. I'm looking for 3 or 4 at bats against the lefty for Chris Young.
Well,
I'm being a smart ass. Don't worry. I'll be here all week. Tampa at Cleveland. Corey Kluber, Blake Snell. Thoughts here on Kluber against Tampa?
I think he's a solid option. He's not Fernandez or Syndergaard level, but I think he is a solid option today. He's too expensive for what he is today, but he's Kluber.
Blake Snell, really high prospect. I think he was top 25 coming into the year this year. He's a guy that massive strikeout upside last year in the minors, minor league pitcher of the year, 2 years in a row for the Rays organization. Lefty, do you have any interest here in Snell?
Not really, only because, though, it's a bad matchup. Like, I'm a big fan of Snell in general. I think he's going to be an option several times in the not too distant future. Today, it's not the right spot for him. It's a bad park. Cleveland, with all their switch hitters and everything else, they're going to roll out a lot of righties against him. Today's not the day to play Snell.
No, and I definitely agree with you. Snell's somebody we're definitely going to be talking about on the podcast in the foreseeable future. This guy, he's definitely a legit arm, and it's amazing like how many good arms comes from the Tampa organization.
Yeah, they really are just a factory for them.
Looking at bats in this game with so many good spots tonight, is this a game we could just kind of avoid?
Yeah, that's what it's looking like for me. Like, this is one of those games that you don't really want the pitchers, maybe Kluber in a GPP, but you don't really want the hitters either. It's kind of just a game you can move on from.
It'd be interesting to see who catches for the Rays. If Conjur's back there, I'd have some interest in Rajah Davis.
Yeah, I mean, Conger's obviously easy to steal. And let me look up Snell real quick. Snell's about average, so I can maybe see Rajah being in play if he's cheap. Some days he's just been like so expensive lately. 4,400 on DraftKings today. Not cheap, not expensive either. I mean, I can kind of see it, I guess.
Yeah, he has 8 stolen bases over the last 10 games. He's really wanting to run right now. He's getting on base. If you could get him cheap, I haven't looked at all the sites yet. It's still, night before when we do the podcast. So if you could get him cheap, I definitely think he's an option if Conger's back there. Moving on, I really don't want to spend a lot of time here on that game.
I don't think we need to.
Yeah. Cincinnati at Texas, Colby Lewis, Anthony Desclafini. We could spend some time on this game. Colby Lewis almost, no hitter into the ninth against Oakland. He's a guy that really has limited the damage this year. It's supposed to be hot in Texas, probably one of the best games for weather on the day. Any interest in Lewis here?
No, zero interest in Lewis ever. Interest in Lewis.
All I'm going to say is me and Siege did the podcast last week, and I said Lewis was a must-play in that early slate against Oakland. Nailed it. Definitely got lucky.
On a short slate in Oakland, like I can definitely see it. But like Lewis, I get a little worked up over Lewis because invariably, every time on Grinders Live, I mention how Lewis is a bad pitcher. Invariably, every time, there's at least 3 or 4 or 5 comments about how Lewis isn't that bad. No, Lewis isn't that bad with his 2.81 ERA, but his 4.75 xFIP is bad, and today is not a good spot for him. I don't know. Do you disagree with me? Like,
you're telling me that a guy that has a 37% hard contact rate is a bad pitcher? Man. Like, if that doesn't tell you anything, and like you said, the Sierra and the xFIP being almost 2 points higher than the ERA. Come on, guys. Like, hey, one good thing about the podcast, we don't have to chat, giving you a hard time about Colby Lewis. Love the bats in this game. Even Desclafini, we love the bats in this game.
You have to love the bats in this game. It's going to be 93 degrees. Like, it's a lot of bad pitchers, a really bad Cincinnati bullpen behind Desclafani. Like, it's just – this is a game where you're going to want to get your bats.
And I could pick anybody from both sides of the plate here for the fantasy draft last play. But why not take one of the best hitters in this game because he's super underpriced for this matchup? And, Joey Votto, 7,600, just too cheap on draft here.
Yeah. Votto is he seems kind of cheap everywhere. Like Votto's a guy that is likely to be in a lot of my cash lineups today.
The pricing here on DraftKings and Fantasy Draft for this game, this is an excellent game stack.
I would completely agree with you.
I want so many bats. All right, real quick, Cincinnati side, everybody in the top 6 or 7 is in play here. Except for Brandon Phillips, he stinks.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not as big on Phillips as some people, but he's cheap. He's cheap. He's second base eligible. The matchup is great. I would not tell you not to play Phillips.
I will tell you not to play Phillips. I'll do it for Derek here. Brandon Phillips stinks. Love the bats. Adam Duvall, guy that's just continued to show a ton of power this season. Love him for tournaments. He has massive upside in this game.
Completely agree. Duvall's a guy that I was on, for a while now, like before the season even. I have him in all my redraft leagues. He's, like you said, big power upside.
Yeah, coming from San Francisco, where he was in an awful hitter's ballpark, getting to Cincinnati, he was definitely a guy we had on our radar here. Texas, do you believe in Ian Desmond's power this season? Is this just ballpark related?
No, because Texas isn't like that great of a power park. I mean, his power is pretty similar to what he's shown in the past. Like, he had a really bad season last year, for a few different reasons, but the power's always been a thing for Desmond. So I'm buying into the power. I'm not buying into the batting average as much. I do think he's a little overrated right now. I think he's a little overpriced as a result. I think people think a little too highly of him, but he's an above average hitter for sure.
Yeah, I like the spot for him. I feel like all the Texas bats are in play here, so I like all the Texas bats. But if you had to single out maybe one or two guys that you're looking at here for Texas, who would you take?
It's going to depend a little bit on the lineup. Nomar Mazara seems like he is pretty cheap, around the industry on most sites. He's been hitting third a lot lately, so I like Mazara. And then I'd probably go with one of the other lefties, maybe Chu or Odor, especially because DeSclafani does struggle a bit with steals, so I could see one of them swiping a base.
I love Mazara in this game. His price tag, just cheap everywhere. Great play here.
Yeah, completely.
So far, it's so frustrating that this guy is not playing every day. Why do you have a guy that's hitting the ball so well on the bench?
I mean, yeah. They have a lot of options, I guess, is the answer. But yeah, he's been good this year.
Like, if you have so many options, you're a team that's definitely, one of the best teams in baseball as far as record goes. Like, move him. Like, he's obviously a guy you can move and get a lot back for him. Move him. Oh, so frustrating. Anyway, not gonna let my frustration take over the podcast. St. Louis at Chicago taking on the Cubs. Jason Hamill, Adam Wainwright. This game has a lot of interesting things here. Jason Hamill, if Miguel Montero's catching, like, I don't know, I'm sure you know, but if with this rookie catcher, Miguel Montero is an excellent catcher as far as like defensive wise. I feel like if he's back there, Hamill might be a tournament play, but if he's not back there, Hamill might be a guy to pick on.
Yeah, so I wrote it up in this week's Risers and Fallers article at Roto Grinders. Montero and David Ross, to a slightly lower extent, are both really good defensive catchers. Wilson Contreras is on the opposite end of the spectrum, well below average, maybe bordering on poor. So that will make a big difference. I don't know. For me, this is one of those games where I kind of look at it and I kind of shrug my shoulders. Like, I'm not really interested in the pitchers. I'm not really interested in the hitters, especially because we're basically looking at neutral Wrigley today. Like, yeah, there's some heat, but there's no real wind to be, talked about. So I don't know. This is a game where I'm not really into anyone.
I actually don't hate a Cubs stack here. Nobody's going to play it. Should be super under-owned with their price tags being so high. Nobody's going to stack the Cubs against Wainwright, and I still don't believe in Wainwright.
I mean, if you don't believe in Wainwright, then, I can see it, especially, ownership is huge in GPPs. I'm a cash game guy, but yeah, I won't tell you not to.
Cash games, you looked at this game and you said, all right, Philadelphia at Minnesota next game, Aaron Nola, Tyler Duffy.
Yep.
Aaron Nola is a guy that I absolutely love. Probably the best curveball in baseball. Any thoughts here on Nola against Minnesota?
I like Nola. I like the stuff. I don't think this is the right spot for him. I would imagine some people will disagree with me today, but he's going into the American League. Even though it's the Twins, it is, a designated hitter instead of a pitcher. It's a park that is really bad for strikeouts, which is going to limit his upside. Obviously, strikeouts are huge in DFS. And it's a Twins offense that I don't think is as terrible as we've seen.
It's not as terrible, but who are you really afraid of in this Twins lineup to hit Nola here? I'm asking because I have Nola really high up on my list for tournaments tonight.
It's not like I dislike Nola, and it's not like there's anyone in this lineup that I'm like, oh, I think this guy's a great play against Nola. But I think just the combination of factors, the change in leagues, the change in parks, the lack of the strikeout upside, though, really is what concerns me here a little bit, because when basically going from the American League to the National League, or the other way around, National to the American League, will cut about a half a point off a pitcher's K per nine right there. Target field will cut, maybe close to another half. So I don't know. It's not the right spot for me.
And definitely fair points. Definitely fair points, especially, looking at Nola's last 2 starts. He's gotten shelled in both of those starts. Really, his last 3 starts, well, he definitely had strikeouts, and he got the win in Milwaukee. It wasn't one of his best starts. I still going to have some interest in Nola in tournaments, but you make good points. One of the reasons I like Nola, Tyler Duffy's on the other side here, and this guy stinks.
Yeah, Tyler Duffy's not particularly good.
Any Philadelphia bats, because I'm guessing no for cash games, any Philadelphia bats that you might like here in tournaments?
Not really. I mean, the times that Philadelphia bats are in play for me is when they're cheap, when there's not a ton of other options on the day, when they're facing maybe a pitcher who can allow steals, so a guy like Odubel or Cesar Hernandez or someone like that's in play. Duffy, as bad as he is one of the best pitchers of the day in terms of preventing steals. So for me, I'm not seeing a whole lot to like from Philadelphia.
I was trying to sell you there. Don't like anybody really as well. Maybe Tommy Joseph in a tournament if you can get him cheap and he's in the lineup. Cameron Rupp maybe in a tournament. I'm really just not going to go out of my way to really target anybody from this game.
Yeah, I'm with you.
We had so many good spots at the beginning. Now we're looking at these spots where you kind of just want to stay away, but this is not a game you want to stay away from. Hector Santiago, Colin McHugh, LA visiting Houston. Hector Santiago is struggling. He's struggling bad. Is this a spot where we could stack the Astros?
This is definitely a spot where we can stack the Astros. Like you said, Santiago is really struggling. He's, even when he's right, even when he's at his best, he's, an average pitcher if we're being nice about it. Gives up a lot of fly balls. He's taking a big park hit here. A lot of good power righties in the Astros lineup. All his fly balls in that park against that power could be big trouble.
Yeah, and when he gets hit hard. He has a really high hard contact rate to righties. This is just an excellent spot to load up on some of these right-handed bats.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Pretty much all the Houston righties are going to be in play. All the usual guys: Springer, Correa, Altuve, Gaddis, whoever you want. They're probably options.
Now, Colin McHugh on the other side here. Any interest in him here against the Angels?
No. I mean, Angels are a bad team, but there's not a lot of strikeouts with them. McHugh's not a very good pitcher. It's not the right venue for it in my mind. I don't think so. If anything, I might be interested in. I mean, you're always interested in Mike Trout, but I think this is an above average spot for a guy like Trout. McHugh's not a guy I'm really into.
Yeah, outside of Trout, I could have some interest in Calhoun as a one-off, but I'm not going to go out of my way for the Angels. I love the Astros bats in this game.
Yeah, completely agree.
Milwaukee at Oakland, Jimmy Nelson. Sonny Gray still in baseball? Anyway, any interest in Nelson or Gray here? If you say Gray, I'm never letting you come back on the podcast.
So based on based on that, I think you're going to be upset with me when I say that Gray is who I'm looking at right now as my cash game SB2 on DraftKings and Fantasy Draft.
Well, I'm sorry that you don't like money.
Listen, it was nice to come on the podcast.
So sell me. You're not going to sell me. Sell the audience.
So for all of last year, for all of the start of this year, I was as much of an I hate Sonny Gray guy as anyone else. Thought he was a complete fraud. But fraud is relative. Fraud is a thing when Sonny Gray is being treated like an ace. When Sonny Gray is, 10 plus K, when he's not striking out a lot of batters, when he's not as good as, those types of aces. When Sonny Gray is 6.6K today on DraftKings, that's a different story. The other thing is that Gray struggled a ton at, in the middle of this year. He took a brief stint on the shelf, and his past 3 starts, all the problems that he was having while he was getting shelled are gone. So his velocity was down. This past start, his velocity was up above 95, way above where it was when he was struggling. His command and his control were a mess. He's walked 1 batter in each of the past 3 games now, since coming off the shelf. And then the major thing was that his secondary pitch usage was completely mangled. He was using his changeup like all the time, was not using his slider or his curveball at all. Changeup is his worst secondary pitch. So it shouldn't come as much surprise that when he's not using his 2 best pitches, he's getting shelled. His past couple starts, though, his past 3 starts since coming off the DL, have been much better. He's using the curveball more. He's using the slider a lot more, which is great, especially over the last 2 games, because that's his best pitch. So Sonny Gray, basically, in my mind right now, is back to being the pitcher he was last year, which at 10K is a fraud. At 6.6K in a good matchup against a righty-heavy Brewers team that strikes out a lot is a very viable option in my mind.
So I didn't know he was that cheap. Wow. Even on Fantasy Draft, super cheap there. Oh, God, man. I still hate Sonny Gray. So if there's ever a time to target Sonny Gray, against Milwaukee at O.co would be one of those times if he's this cheap. I don't know. I like the price tag, and I can understand the cash game thinking of his price tag on DraftKings and Fantasy Draft at that price is going to allow you to get a Syndergaard or a Fernandez with your and not really suffer on bats. Man, I can't say Sonny Gray's a good play. Those words are not going to come out of my mouth. I pick on this guy as much as I can. I'm not going to pick on him here. I might use him on 1 or 2 teams if I roll out maybe 10 or so. His price is really cheap. Fade him on FanDuel. 8,500. There's better options on FanDuel, but DraftKings and Fantasy Draft, those price tags are interesting.
Yeah. Yep. So, I went through that because I've considered him his last couple starts out. And I had that kind of internal conflict of oh my God, am I really thinking about playing Sonny Gray? But now I'm kind of over that, and I'm in the okay, let's sell people on Sonny Gray mode. At least for now. Give it a couple good starts, and then he'll be too expensive again, and then he'll be a fraud again.
Yeah, anytime he's not pitching at home. All right, so Jimmy Nelson's a guy that he's been a little bit interesting this season. Oakland offense, really bad. Josh Reddick, he's back in AAA right now, rehabbing. Can't wait for him to get back. Chris Davis day-to-day. This lineup is probably going to be really ugly, and I just don't know if I can pull the trigger on Jimmy Nelson.
No, I don't think I can either. He's going into the American League, which automatically is going to make him worse. It is a good park in O.co, but it is a park that suppresses strikeouts a bit. So for Gray, because the Brewers strike out so much, for his price, he's fine. For Nelson, the A's don't have a ton of strikeouts to begin with, in my mind. And so Nelson's not necessarily a guy that I'm looking at.
And bats in this game, nothing really stands out to me outside of a Milwaukee stack because Sonny Gray sucks. I was totally joking. I'm not stacking Milwaukee here against Sonny Gray.
No, I don't really see any bats that I would be interested here on either side.
Scooter would be the one guy that I would look at just because he bats second on the road. Really good chance to get four at bats here. Hitting the ball well. He'd be the one guy that I would play as a one-off just because I don't love second base.
Yeah, if he's cheap on a site like DraftKings or Fantasy Draft where they're priced up a little bit because Gray's priced down, I don't really like it.
Yeah, it would definitely be a price play. Washington at Los Angeles, Scott Kazmir, Tanner Roark. Kazmir is not Kershaw, and we're recording this as Kershaw's dominating the Nationals, but the Nationals are a really good team against left-handed pitching this season. I know you're a Scott Kazmir fan in general. Is this a spot that you could use him here?
Yep, this is a spot where you can use him, especially because of the price. He is basically Sonny Gray price level, 6.9 on DraftKings. So he's the other guy that I'm considering as my SP2. This is he's at home. He's in Dodger Stadium. It's a park downgrade for the Nationals. You said they've been good against lefties, but their two best hitters are lefties, Harper and Murphy. Assuming Grandal is behind the plate, that's going to make a difference. That's going to help Kazmir. This is a spot where I think you can play him. I'm a big fan of Kazmir and Dodgers pitching in general, so maybe I'm slightly biased, but I do think it's a good spot.
Yeah, that pitching staff definitely doesn't suck. I just don't know if I like the matchup here for Kazmir. We have so many good options, and I never thought I'd say this, but I would rather play Sonny Gray over Kazmir at the price tags that you're mentioning here, just because even with the best bats and Murphy and Harper being lefty, Harper still hits left-handed pitching well enough where I'm not going to be using Harper, but I'm not loving it. Just, we got Jason Worth. We have Wilson Ramos, Rendon's hitting the ball well this season. Even Danny Espinosa is showing power, and he has power against lefties as well. I just don't know if I can get behind Kazmir here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the opposite side of it. The Nationals lineup is going to make a little bit of a difference. They can change things up occasionally, like say it's Jose Lobaton instead of Ramos behind the plate. That would be nice. But I don't know. Overall, I do think this is a pretty good spot for Kazmir.
And that's why we have two people come on. So we have two different opinions here. Any thoughts on Rorik here?
I'm not a big Rorik believer in general. I think he's a solid number 3, you'd call it, like in real life. Like, he's a solid middle of the rotation guy. His strikeouts this year I think are fraudulent. He's not an 8 to 9 strikeout per inning guy at all. His stuff doesn't project that way, especially because he's a ground ball guy. He tends to work a little bit lower in the zone. He has a sinker. I think he's pitching over his head right now, and I don't think the matchup is good enough. Even though it's a good park, Dodgers have so many good lefties that I don't really want anything to do with Rorik today.
I don't either. When you struggle against San Diego at Petco, you're instantly off my list. I hate to say it, but really, I think that actually makes a little sense. I'm not going to go crazy here. If you want a really low-owned stack, I don't hate the Dodgers stack here. Corey Seager, Gonzalez, Jock Peterson, and then you're really going to have to decide if you want a fourth guy, who you want to use. I would probably use Trace Thompson. I'm a big fan of his, but honestly, I love Jock Peterson in this game. He's hitting the ball really well. He's showing power. We get a low ball pitcher. I like Peterson a lot.
I would agree with you. I think Peterson could be sneaky. I think a Dodger stack could maybe be sneaky.
And that's going to wrap it up here for 15-game slate, man. We got through it without disagreeing too much.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the threat to throw me off the podcast if I recommended Sonny Gray, I think we got along pretty well.
Oh, I was joking. You got to have some fun. I'm obviously not a Sonny Gray fan at all, but you made good points with this price tag, so I can definitely see the merit to playing him. But let's play some Home Run Derby here. I'll let you I don't know. Do you know we play Home Run Derby here?
I do. So what do? We go high, mid, low?
No, we're not going to play high, mid, low. We're going to let you pick whoever you want, and you're going to have first. We're going to rotate picks and take 3 each.
Oh, all right. I like it. Okay, so I go first, you said?
Yep.
There's a lot of good home run guys today. Okay, I'm going to go with Chris Davis with a C.
With a C. I have to write that down because I'll forget. That's a great pick. I'm going to go Josh Donaldson. I love this spot for him.
Okay, I'm going to go Carlos Gonzalez.
Cargo. I like it. I like these power guys you're taking here. That's why we do this, really show. I'm going to go Cespedes. I know it's not the greatest ballpark, but I have zero faith in Ian Kennedy.
Yeah, I wouldn't have much faith in him either. I'll go, I don't know, with wind blowing out to center in Yankee Stadium, I'm going to go with Arenado. I'm going to go with another Rocky.
I like that. That's definitely people are going to be on the Yankee side. So I think that without knowing it, you were a little contrarian there. I'm going to go with a catcher. I never take catchers, but I'm going to go a catcher here. I'm going to go Evan Gattis.
I like it. I think Gattis has a great shot at going yard today.
Last thing before we get out of here, at the end of the day, if you had to pick one pitcher, not named Jose Fernandez, Johnny Cueto, Noah Syndergaard, Chris Sale, to pick up a win, doesn't have to score the most fantasy points, but give me a guy, not those 4 guys. Anybody over 10K on FanDuel's instantly eliminated. Guy that's going to get a win here.
Okay. So no one over 10K and none of those guys.
I saved you the trouble of saying Syndergaard or Fernandez.
You did. Wow, it's a tough one today. I would go. I think I might go Sonny Gray.
I was gonna say, if you don't go Sonny Gray, I'm gonna be highly disappointed in you.
Yeah, I'll go Sonny Gray.
Let's see. That guy would be too easy. And all right, let's see. I'm gonna go a little against the grain here. I'm gonna go Justin Verlander.
Okay. And
I really like the Tigers' bats in that game.
I would agree. I like Tigers' bats there a lot. I don't know if Marco Estrada was ruled out, but I think he would have a pretty good shot today too.
Yeah, he's only 8,700 on FanDuel. If you're going to use him, I think that'd be your spot to use him.
For sure. That's a good price for him. Way too expensive on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, where the win is, relatively more important and where he's cheaper, that's a good spot for him.
All right, it's going to wrap it up here for the podcast. If you guys enjoyed Derek's, knowledge here, he puts a lot of that knowledge and everything else into the bat. You guys can, purchase that over there at Roto Grinders. It's a really great tool. It's a good place to start. It's a good place to finish. You put a lot of work into it. I know a lot of people have enjoyed it this season. So, if you guys want to check that out, Derek, any other thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I appreciate you saying so, and I appreciate you having me on. This is fun.
Yeah, we'll do it again soon. If you guys haven't checked out fantasydraft.com, make sure you guys check them out. Use promo code Grinders. That way, if you guys like the podcast Monday through Friday, you're helping us help them. And, you're getting to listen to me with, different kind of hosts every day. So make sure you guys check that out. We'll have our boy Cheese is Good on the podcast tomorrow. So bring it on the cash game, guys, and letting you guys get some different perspectives here on the podcast. It's going to wrap it up here for this Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow. Good luck in your contest, and we'll see you then.